Hello. I don't know if you can hear me. So let me test myself. Perfect. Hello. Let's see. Hello. There it is. There. Hello. Okay. Make sure I'm muting myself there. All right. And I want to do away with this. And I think I am ready to go. All right. So I am recording. Oh, this is crazy. Have everybody seen yourself opposite and you just don't know which way things are going? So I am recording. This is the third actually installment of the Start with Occupancy workshop. Today we are going to review competitive analysis. And so super excited. Sometimes the things that you do as an online person, course creator, facilitator, things like that, is just to do consistency, is to be consistent no matter what. And so I am super this is the third day. And hello, if you just joined me, put your name. Oh, you know what? Let me see the comments. You can put your name and where you are from right in the comment section. And so that way I can see you and say hello. So if you can just it can be your first name and just what city and state you're there. And if I know you, then you'll get a special shout out. If I don't know you, I still will shout you out. So that's how I am. So anyway, today we're going over the competitive analysis. So this is the whole Start with Occupancy, kind of like a workshop. And it is a way for me to go over the things that people need to do before they start their senior living journey. So many people, from what I've seen on Facebook and Facebook groups, are looking to go into senior living because they heard this big information that there's a ton of money to be made and people are just getting rich really quick from it. And so, of course, me and my realistic self is going to tell people the truth that yes, there is money, but it's not definitely a get rich quick type of situation. And because we are caring for people, it is super important that we actually care for people and that we go through everything. So if you're just joining me, put your name and where you're at in the comments. So this is a 3-day program. All of it will be on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, Start with Occupancy. Day 1, we actually went over senior living and assisted living, what it is, the different types of communities there are, different things like that. The second day, we went over the market analysis. And so today, we're going over the competitive analysis. And so what does that look like? I like to call it collaborative research only because at the end of the day, your competitors could be your collaborators and you guys can help each other out. I always believed in playing fair and playing nice and helping one another in the sandbox, as we like to say. I always played nicely in a sandbox because you never know who you're going to need, when you're going to need them. And at the end of the day, for a family, for a resident, every community is not going to be for them. So, and I mean that. I mean, at the end of the day, people are looking for different things, just like they look for different houses, just like they look for different locations to live, all these different things. So it's important to know, because if somebody move in with you and they're not happy, they're not going to make you happy. They're not going to make your staff happy. They're not going to make the other residents happy. And it's not like anyone goes into senior living and moves in and say, oh, I just can't wait to move in. That is typically not what's going to happen. However, You want to know your resident and their families and want to know what they're looking for. And if you are really, for whatever reason, even for the level of care that you're providing, not able to provide that to them, you want to send them to your competitor. Like I said, collaborator. So having great relationships in this industry goes far. Is not the type of cutthroat that you find in other industries. Well, let me back that up. It can be cutthroat depending if other people don't share that same philosophy. So it can be really bad in that respect. But if you come at it with a pure heart, I believe, and that you try and work with people, and you show them that you're really trying to work with them and not do things underhanded, is going to go a long way. And it goes a long way with families, because families, when they're in a moment of crisis, they don't want to hear bad reviews and stuff like that on the competitor. They don't want to hear people being nasty. They want someone who they believe is going to care for their loved one. So if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. I just want to be sure. I think I tested it, and so it was, but anyway, so that is what it is. So we're going to go over the competitive analysis. And let me just take a look here and see. So what is included and what should you do for your competitive analysis? So number one, what we went by yesterday, we talked about doing the market analysis and looking at the number of assisted livings or independent livings or memory care communities that is in your area. So when you're looking at that analysis, depending on what you're offering in your community, you want to look at others that's within that 3 to 5 mile radius. And what is the number of them? How many of them are there? One thing I would like to say is that if you're purchasing your assisted living from someone who's already existing and have been operating, ask them who is their main competitor, and they'll tell you different names or whatever have you, but I would say to them too, when you lost a move-in, when somebody came and looked at your community and decided on another community, give me the top 3 that you hear most often, or the top 5 that you hear most often. Those are the ones that, no matter what, it could be a community that's down the street. Oh my God, sorry. It could be one down the street, but hold on. It could be one down the street, but at the end of the day, sorry, hold on, that's my son. Down the street, but they may not be considered a real competitor, depending on what's going on with them. I keep turning this off and nothing's happening. Sorry. These are the things, right? My son is out driving. I just need to make sure that he's safe. So anyway, so sorry about that. But you want to make sure that the one that you're going to is the true competitor. You want to make sure that when you're looking at, like I said, if it's already existing, finding out who are they losing people to and the reason why. Sometimes it can make sense because maybe they take Medicaid and you don't. Something like that, right? That financial situations like that makes sense. Any other reason, you want to find out where there's a hole that community has that you're purchasing, and what is the other community offering that your community that you're looking at purchasing does not. So that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother workshop that we'll go through. But at the end of the day, you want to look at the other people that is around you that is considered to be a true competitor. And then you want to go and visit them. So you're going to compile your list, and then you're going to go and visit them. When you do that, oh my God, everybody knows I'm on at 8 o'clock and everybody's calling me, so I'm sorry. So you're going to compile them, and you're going to then go visit the top 3 to 5. You definitely want to go visit at least the top 5. I usually say 5 is the magic number. But going to visit them is going to give you an idea of what they look like, what families are going to see, um, also what services they offer. So we're going to go a little bit deeper in that, but just understand you're going to compile your list, go visit them. And when you go visit them, there's a few things that's important for you to get. You want to get their collateral. What was their brochure, if they have one? Some places only have a flyer. Some places have nothing. If it's a residential care home, sometimes they don't have anything. You want to find out their pricing. Again, that could be a little bit difficult depending on how much the other person likes to play in the sandbox. But there's ways that you can really connect with people so that they can give you their pricing. If they know that you're coming there on good intentions, basically, like, I want to know, as I'm getting ready to purchase this place or as I'm getting ready to open, the people who's out of my price range, either they're looking for something a lot higher or something that's more specialized, or they're looking for something that, you know, is lower than what we are offering. I want to know at least the range that you're in so that I can make sure that I can refer them to you. If you're coming at a servant's heart to people, most times they're going to give you that information. So you're going to compile the list, you're going to go visit, you're going to get the pricing and the brochure, you're going to ask questions. The only way you can get a real competitive analysis or complete the data, collaboration data that you're needing is to ask questions. Ask questions from the person that is either the owner or their salesperson or their staff. I like to, let me say always, but if you go there on a pop-up, go there with the intention to set an appointment. And if they're available to show you right then and there, perfect, great. But either set the appointment ahead of time or go there, introduce yourself, and then set the appointment, because you have to honor people's time. And if it's a solopreneur or someone who's an owner, or a smaller place where there's a lot, there could be fires going on, there could be a state inspection going to happen the next day, or survey rather. There's so many different things. People are operating a business and you want to be respectful of their time and don't want to insist on just like have this attitude that I'm here to look at your place. Can you show me around? You most definitely can ask, but at the end of the day, you want to, I prefer, I would say in my life, especially being on the side of the person who's busy, who has visits, meaning tours with families scheduled for the day and all that stuff. I appreciate it when people scheduled their time with me. If I was free and they just happened to introduce themselves to me and things like that, and I was free, I was more than happy and to take them around, because I felt like anyone who came through that door was an opportunity for me. I don't care if it was the mailman. I don't care if it was, a nurse from a home health company or whatever have you. Any opportunity I had to showcase the places that I was at, that was the place. That was the time I was going to, if I had the moment and the time to do it, I was going to do that. So that is asking questions. When you go there too, you want to review their services. So part of the questions that you're asking and the things to look at is what services do they offer? Like in Florida, we have three different levels of assisted living that you can get licensed for. You have your standard, you have your limited nursing service license, and you have your extended congregate care, ECC license. So you have three different licenses. In other states, you may not, but you may have some places that are able to take people, and they have services where they have an outside party come in and do injections for diabetics, where other places do not. Different things like that. I mean, pretty much everybody should be able to do that, but every state is different. So you want to see what services do they provide, because there could be something with a particular possible resident or prospect that comes to you, a family, that they're looking for something specific. I'll give you another example. In the state of Florida, you have assisted livings, but you also have assisted livings that have an LMS license, limited mental service license. So now you have someone who's an aging adult who needs assisted living, but they may have some diagnoses that goes along with that. Well, they typically, you only allowed to have so many in that particular community. So that way it means that you have to find a community with that special license. And it's like that all over the country, right? There's different things that you can do and cannot do. And so understanding what services are offered, even if it's typical services, transportation services, if it is services in terms of, do you have or do they offer gluten-free diets, or do they offer, organic this or things like that. Those are the things that people start to ask for. So finding out what services that they offer. Technically, the diet's more about dining, but again, services, maybe they have a physician. Let me put it that way. A physician that comes in and that's a house physician, that would be a service, right? So those are what I'm talking about when I talk about services. Thumbs up? I don't see a thumbs up. So thumbs up if you guys can see me or whatever, hear me. Activities is the other thing. You want to look at their activity calendar. If they have one. If it's a residential care home, typically there may or may not be an actual calendar. It just depends on how people run their personal care home. However, asking the questions about what activities do they do, and how often, and what are some of the, ideas, again, that's really good for collaboration. And then, of course, about their dining. I had a resident one time tell me that there's 3 things at that age that they really look forward to in their life. And he said breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dining is super, super, super important. And so looking at how they do their dining, how do they, set their people up? How do they get interaction between their residents? What is it? Is it family style dining? Do people get their own plates? Is it anytime dining? What are they doing for snacks? Different things like that is always good to know. So, why is this important? Why is this important? Because when you have a good competitive analysis or collaborative research, whatever you want to call it, I'll call it a collaborative research for me, it's going to give you a lot of information. Number one, if you're asking the right questions, then you will know where there is a option or an opening in the market that could really utilize your services. Meaning that you can niche down. Niching is so good in this industry because it's so wide and everybody's like trying to get all these residents who might need help. And you don't want to go too far down a niche where you're limiting yourself too much. But if you are specific, let's just say you are a community that really focuses in on diabetics. And so you have a special great diet with special seasonings and you do special things for people. You could really kind of move your community to really be that. And then you can start marketing to physicians about it. You can go to skilled nursing facilities and rehabs to let them know that that is what your specialty is. You could then go to discharge planners at the hospital to let them know. I see the heart. Thank you. You can let them know that that's what you're specializing in, and some of the wonderful different things that you do to cater to those who are diabetics than any other place. Because it's not that you're saying that you're better, it's just that you are someone who actually have studied this particular niche. You know that there's a need for it, and that people want quality food, but they want it to taste good, but they need to be in line with their dietary restrictions. And so that you have a nurse who comes in who, does the things with their blood sugar, like you could really make that your community and make that then what stands out about you. So then what happens is that it goes all out and everyone says, well, you can go to this place, but your mom's diabetic. This is a really great place for people who's diabetic because, and then they have all the things that you've done. So that's where niching really helps, right? And it could be anything from just like that, what we talked about. It could be people from who only speak a certain language. Like I know places here that is Spanish speaking. That's important for families, right? So they have staff that's Spanish speaking. They have Spanish food and they have this, so you can make it cultural. You could make it, not that you're going to not invite anybody else in. But by doing that, now anyone who, is Spanish speaking, that goes out, right? It can be only for women. So now you have something that's women only or men only, or, like you can really do things with your community that others aren't doing to set you apart. And that's where the competitive, collaborative research, competitive analysis, I'm so used to saying that, can really come in, because it can really get you to fine tune what you want to do, what's your messaging, and it helps you with communication then on your website. It helps you with communication then on your copy, on your collateral. It helps you when you're going out to meet people and going to networking events. What's different about your community? If that was good, I look like I see a heart and I see a thumbs up, so people are getting this. So I'm super excited about that. So I am super passionate about that, because what I have found is that when you niche like that, your community grows in occupancy exponentially. I have never seen a niche that was specific that community did not get full, I would say, within a year. So if you can find something that's like that, it doesn't say you have to, because you can take anybody, anything like that, and that works because people need assisted living, right? But if you go deep, that means that you can really become a specialist in something and offer either activity programs or dining programs or whatever have you. And so now it's a lot for me, I guess the way my brain works, it's a lot easier for me to have everything that is around what I'm doing and my specialty, and then to communicate that as a sales, I don't call it sales spiel or sales pitch or whatever have you, but it helps with that. So that is why it's important to do a competitive analysis. So when you're going in, I break it down to 9, but then when I started going into it, because I am just who I am, sorry guys, I started listing things. I got like 16 idea things that you should look at, right? So indulge me, because I'm going to try and go through them quickly, but I just want you to be as prepared as possible. And these are things that really are subconsciously going through my mind. It's not on a worksheet or anything like that. I do have a competitive analysis checklist for you, so that I'll have for you. So when we put it all up here, and I'll have a little link for that checklist. But the things that you want to look at when you go to a community. Number 1 is first impressions. When you are driving up, what does the outside look like? What does it tell you? One of the things I remember, a family here, they list, like literally they had a spreadsheet of all the places they went to. It was something like 30. So if you think that you're the only one that people are seeing, or there's only 2 or 3, it is not. You will have those families that will look for, literally go to 30 different places. It used to be the average number was 7 or 8 that families look at. And now I do believe it's something like 21 that they will look at before making the decision. Of course, it depends on how serious or severe the situation is that they're looking, or how soon they need it. But families are a lot more savvy than they used to be. And so this particular family went to all these different places, and I remember her telling me, I drove up to the front of the house because it was a residential care home. And she says, I looked at it, and I looked at the man sitting on the porch, and I drove off. I knew right away that is not where my mom is going. And I say that because that has to do with your staffing. That has to do with the training of your staff. It has to do with your presentation on the outside. Outside shows people what it looks like on the inside. And so you want to look at the first impressions when you drive up to other places to see what is the feeling that you get when you come in. Does it look welcoming? Does it look neat? Does it look, happy? Does it, I said, what does happy look like? Happy looks like flowers. That's what happy looks like. Happy looks like is flowers, and is life, and is greenery, and there's I don't know, statutes of those outdoor statutes or shells and things like that. So that's what happy looks like. So you want to look at what the first impression looked like. And that goes throughout the whole place. Even when you walk in the door, What is the feeling that you get? There's a whole system that I do with my team about that when they're preparing for their visits, and that will go in a different course that we're talking about. That will probably be the deep dive discovery. But when you go in, what is your first impression? What do you see? Um, what do you smell? All that stuff. The second one is looking at their, like we call it model, but it looks like in a personal care home, a lot of times they have, personal care homes have furnish it themselves. So how does it look? Does it look presentable? Does it look welcoming? Again, does it look neat? Does it look cluttered? The model is important. Looking at the furniture and the decor and the date of it. Does it look like it's been there since, 1970? Yeah, I'm laughing because I've been in these situations. So that's why I apologize. I'm laughing at myself and laughing at things I've seen in 12 years. But you want to look at the decor and the furniture. One place I went in, I did an audit. So somebody came in and says, I want you to come in and do a whole visit with me. And by the way, just so that you know, I use the word visit synonymous with a tour. The reason why is because when people come to your house, are they touring your house? And that's something, again, it goes with my corporate training. We used to say tour, and then it made sense when the language changed to visit. It made sense to me because these are people's homes, and you don't tour homes, you tour museums, and tour things like that. So I will say visit. So if you hear me saying visit, I mean the same thing as a tour, but I utilize the word visit because people come to visit you. They don't come to tour you. So if you hear me say that, that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, I did audit. So I would go to the home. It was a personal care home, and did an actual visit as if I was a family member looking for my family. And then after I did it, I sat with her and gave her an analysis of what are the things I sat with her, and then we went through the community together. So I can show her from an outsider's point of view where are areas that could improve. So we talked about the lighting, we talked about the darkness of the decor, we talked about, because she furnished everything, but in the room that she's looking for a new resident to go in, it was a huge room, but the TV was like this little, and even in the common area, the TV was too small for the average vision of residents. So these are some of the little things. They're little things, but for a family, it can, when you're looking at different places, that could be a deciding factor. Remember this, and this is something I want you to always remember when you have your home, is that when people are coming in to look at a home for their loved one, it is not that they're running to do this. They're always looking for a reason why not. So if you go into this and you are looking at your home, your staff, everything that you're doing, think about the person who's looking for a reason why not. And it is your job to ensure that you minimize those why nots. They're looking for a reason why I don't want to put my mom here, why I don't want to put my dad here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to make this decision. So you're looking at everything from the idea of, a lot of times people say, well, my home is this and my home is that, and they're selling. But when you're looking at it from that point of view of what is going on in my home that will cause someone to say, why not? Is it because all of the vents, like, I'm not going to show you mine because it looks terrible, but is there a lot of dust around the vents? Because then they're thinking the circulation in here may not be good. If there's so much dust around the vents, they probably aren't clean in the kitchen. Like, people have these things, and that's just what it is. So you're always looking for reasons to give them of the why they should come in, by also reversing it and looking at what reason am I giving them of why they shouldn't. So that's a pro tip. Totally there. So we talked about decor, staff, and friendliness. when somebody walks in as a visitor, what is the first thing your staff do? What are they saying to them? If you're not there, or even if you are there, how does that engagement happen? Do they say hello? How can I help you? So glad that you're visiting. And there is a thing in the senior living space, and you find it in any business. They call it what is a staff member's 30-second commercial. I hate that. I hate the word commercial because it sounds very, very, I don't want to call it salesy, but it sounds, I don't know. It's just, that's me. Some people call it that, and it's universal. Everybody understands that. Your 30-second pitch, if you're trying to sell something in terms of getting funding for your business, or your 30-second commercial, what is that? That basically means that if you're in your elevator pitch, right? That means that if you are only 30 seconds in, what are you going to communicate to that person of who you are, what you do, and how long you've done it, and why you're here, right? If you have a staff member that is going to be working, obviously when people come and visit, they're going to see your staff. I call it a 30-second introduction. I think, what is their introduction and what is that going to look like? How am I going to be introduced to them? And it doesn't mean a formal introduction, but it means that, I'm being introduced to your community. I'm being introduced to your staff. And I mean introduced meaning I'm seeing for the first time. That's what I mean by introduction. And so what does that first encounter look like is super important. And so staff engagement, you want to look at that when you're doing competitive analysis. Do they seem friendly? Are they kept? Do they look neat? Blah, 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 all of that. You want to look at their collateral. I told you that earlier, that you want to look and see, what is their value proposition and how they're positioning themselves. You want to also look at their website before you go there. If they have one, I've noticed a lot of personal care homes do not have a website, or have a very basic website, or have, there's so much opportunity on the digital side for most senior living communities, especially personal care homes and independently owned and operated ones. So looking at your website, if your website looks like the next 5, 6, 7, 10 websites. I did an audit for a home care company, and literally in an area that had over, 100 home care companies, I looked at 20 websites, and they all looked alike. They all had some of the same words and sayings. Of course, they're offering the same thing, but what makes yours different? And that is just, pet peeve of mine. So there it is. So again, that's a matter of finding what your place is and how you're going to put that together. So looking at their social media accounts, how active are they? That's something that's good. Once you have your list of places, you're just looking real quick. What does their website look like? Are they active in social media? What are they doing? Trying to see then what can you do different? What can your campaign be like? Or be like, what should your campaign consist of? It's a long day. Pricing structure. So you want to do your pricing structure. You want to look at theirs. How do they do it? There's so many different ways of pricing out a community. You have base rate, level of care. You have all-inclusive. You have all-inclusive with ancillary outlier pricing. You have a la carte pricing. You have all these different pricing models. And so you want to know what pricing model they are utilizing. Is there a community fee? Is there not? In the personal care home world, I've seen, or residential assisted living, there's a lot of places that do what they call a deposit, where here are the bigger companies, and I say here, meaning Florida, but also the larger companies, they have a non-refundable community fee. They don't call it a deposit. It is a community fee. And so we can talk about that in a different area, about how that is and what that pays for and things like that. But then the other part of it is, I've seen where people actually do first and last month's rent as the community fee. Not even community fee, I'm sorry. They call it first and last month's rent is their initial deposit. and then they give 1 month. Like it's very flexible in the personal care home world in residential assisted living. That I'm not used to. I will tell you that. And so you need to know what's going on in your area so that you know how to be competitive. If you're competing with other homes, personal care homes and residential care homes in your area, find out how they're doing theirs. I will tell you most of the big boxes do a one-time community fee that's non-refundable. So that you know that. Then you also want to know licensing. Again, if you're in Florida, there's certain licensing, as well as number of units and number of license, they call it beds for licensing purposes. And that is a word that I don't like to utilize when we're talking to families. We don't say, or marketing, or I see sometimes people say, I have a 6-bed facility. I usually say person, because the beds don't define the number of well, it does define the number of people, but it doesn't define the number of rooms. So you want to know the two and the difference, especially when you're looking at occupancy percentage and rates. And so when you're comparing. Then again, occupancy, the only way you know that is to know how many internal beds that they are able to have, meaning how many people are they licensed to have in their community. And then you have transportation. Do they offer transportation services? How do people get to their doctors? Do they have a agreement with Lyft? Lyft used to have an agreement with places that if someone was older, it was a $5 ride no matter where, or something like that. I don't know if they're still doing that, but there was a program that they had for a while. And so looking at what do they do and how do they provide transportation services to Walmart for their residents, or to the grocery store if they want to buy something, or to outside events. Do they offer even outside events? I mean, that is something that's good to know. What incentives are being offered at the location that is your collaborator? Do they have, 0 community fee this month? Are they offering a long-term incentive? And how long is that incentive for? So is it, $250 off of the rent for the first year? Is it a rate lock after, up to a year and a half or 2 years? Like, what are the incentives that they have? And then you might want to ask why. Why are you guys offering an incentive right now? Usually it's because of occupancy challenges. And so you want to know what that looks like. If you're a highly occupied community, you should not be offering incentives. And sometimes if you're highly occupied, you probably will not do a short-term stay. But that's a good question, right? Do they do short-term stays? So a short-term stay in the industry is called respite, just so that you know what that language is. Anytime you're talking about a short-term stay, meaning somebody is not a permanent resident, but they're short-term while their family is on vacation, or while something's going on in their family, or the caregiver needs an actual break, that is called respite and respite care. So you want to know if they offer it and what their respite rates are. Then you have length of stay. This time, people may not tell you all of that, so you may not know all of that. So I would say that if you see a place that the acuity level of the residents is high, the question that you would ask is, do you take residents that are more higher acuity, or do they come in needing less care and you allow them to age in place? Now, most places will say we allow them to age in place, but the key question is, do they take them in with that high level of care? Because chances are, if that particular community is taking in or moving people in who's a higher level of care, that means that they have a more care model, meaning that they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the care work. And somebody's high level of care, there's more that goes into that. So then that means that either hopefully they're paying their staff more because of the level of care of their residents. But it also tells you that chances are their length of stay is shorter because the level of care is higher. Now, some people, when you're getting that specialized care, they actually live longer because they're being cared for, but if someone has so many multiple diagnoses and their care is so high, how many people's on hospice, those type of things can let you know that, what is that level of length of stay is. And then looking at move outs, you may not know that. That might be something that people aren't going to let you know. So, that's things in conversation, I talk to people. So when I'm talking to people, I kind of stumble across that type of information. so sometimes you just, people, when you start asking them about themselves, about their business, about their community, about their residents, about the things come out. So my ears are always perked up so I can listen and hear what people are saying. The other thing that you might want to know is, as you're going out and doing your other market analysis, ask the people that you're doing market analysis with, what other community, if you had to refer a patient right now, because over on that side they're called patients, on our side they're called residents. If you had to refer a patient of yours right now, what are the top 3 places you would refer them to? And they'll tell you. So then you kind of know a little bit about that. But also, you can ask, oh, have you ever heard of such and such place? How are they? And so then they'll tell you that, no, I haven't heard of them. Nobody has ever heard of them. Okay, so they just might be small in the area, whatever have you. But if someone says, oh yeah, they're good, this and this, they'll tell you. So understanding what that person's place is in the market. Internally, I will tell you, people will give you their very much unfiltered opinion about places within the market. You never want to ask a family about an opinion unless they give it to you. But one of the questions I remember I asked one of my, when I did marketing for a home health company in a different market that I'm unfamiliar with. And so as I was going out and visiting them, different skilled nursing discharge planners and things like that, I would say, oh, have you heard of such and such home care company? And they would be like, oh yeah, we've heard of them. I was like, oh, okay. Good or bad? What have you heard? Or have you had any experience with them? And then I'll ask them, have you had any experience with them? And they'll say, oh yeah, we did. We sent a couple of patients. Everything was good. So now you kind of get a temperature, right? I do sometimes. I'm like, so good or bad? Give me the tea, spill the tea. And I want to know the tea because I always wanted to know how to tell my clients how to make their community or their business better. So the other thing is finding out the length of time of their employees. Like one home care company, I love the owner here because she was so forward thinking when she opened her community or her home years ago, paid her staff exceptionally well, but was always good to them and had very, very high standards. So her community is drop dead gorgeous. And I say drop dead gorgeous. It's not the glitz and glitter. It's a home, but it's clean. The staff is nice. They're sweet, whatever have you. But she, her staff has not left her in 9 years. 9 years. She has the same staff. In our industry, that is unheard of. And we're not talking about just one person. It's like a staff of maybe 4, 5, something like that, 4, 5, 6 people that has worked with her for 9 years. And that says a lot about her management skills, her forward thinking of how she does things with her staff, things like that. I mean, that is amazing. So longevity of staff is great. And when you have staff with a lot of turnover, and it's very much a challenge in this industry right now, you have families that then become disenfranchised because just as soon as they get to know someone, they're gone. So and then that also puts a burden on you because every new person you have to come in, number one, you have to recruit them, you have to do the background checks, you have to onboard them, you have to train them. Hopefully you're training them to your standards because everybody don't know how to make up a bed. Everybody don't have your standards on how you want your residents to be served their food. So even though that sounds stupid, 100%, you want to make sure that And that's what she did. She's like, this is my standard, and this is how we're going to do things, no matter what. And so you want to make sure that permeates through your community with your staff. And so when you have a high turnover staff, you're going to possibly have a more unstable occupancy. And our whole goal is to have a 100% occupancy, right? With a wait list. That is the golden grail, right? Occupied with a wait list. So again, putting all this information together with results is helping you to find your niche and where you need to be in the particular market. It helps you to establish your message. It helps you to create a value proposition of who you are, who you serve, how do you serve them, and what is the benefit to them and or their family. And it also, because of that, will help you decide on a pricing strategy. So if you are a boutique, concierge, high-end transportation in a limo type of place, and you have staff that is catering, you might charge a lot higher than someone who is doing canned goods, not doing, fresh cooking every day, all of that other stuff. That might be lower. What typically happens though is people do the less and want the more. I have an issue with that, but that's mine. I have an issue with that, but that's my issue. I really feel like our aging adults deserve, I'm not saying that they have to have the best of everything. There's just pricing levels for everything, but making sure that care and quality is all throughout is important to me, and hopefully to the people that follow me and that I serve, because that is my level, my standards. And I do not apologize for that at all. I do not apologize for that. I love my aging adults and my seniors, and yes, everybody have not lived the best life, but at the end of the day, they deserve to have good care. Everybody deserves that. So this will help you, again, understanding when you have this, what level of service and what things that you can do in your market, in your community, that is going to make a difference. And again, that goes with your pricing strategy. So are you going to be the boutique place? Are you going to be the luxurious place? Boutique and luxurious is two different things. But I'm thinking luxury and premium. Boutique is like really high specialized. Are you going to be basic, or what they call mid-market, classic, the classic location? And then are you going to be the person who's going to offer affordable housing? And I used to work at a place where 87% of the community was Medicaid. And so the place wanted to transfer or transition it to be more private pay. And one thing I had to get the staff to understand is just because we accept Medicaid as a form of payment does not mean that the people should get lower quality in terms of their care, their food, which is something I just went over. They just because of that. Can you make it affordable? Does that mean that they're not having lobster and filet and all those other things? Absolutely, but does it mean that you are okay with not making sure that the walls are painted correctly? Can you skimp? I just, that's the thing, right? Don't skimp on people just because they can't afford the luxury place. That is my word. All right. I hope this was super helpful, super informative for you, that you got some takeaways out of it. And if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to DM me through Facebook Messenger. You can leave a comment on the video in YouTube, which this will also be. And you can also find me on Instagram, and you can send me a DM there. If you want more information about not only our trainings that we're having, but our accelerator program, our whole, where you're going to get tons of trainings and mentorship over the period of the whole year. We actually have that if you're a new owner and you are just starting out and you're like, okay, I spent all this time, all this effort, all this money in getting licensed and open and get all the funding. And now I put up my sign and it's 30 days. And guess what? I don't have not one resident, or I only have one, but I got 9 more to get because I have a 10 person community. Well, if that is the case, then Compass Rose XL is for you. It is our 1-year mentorship, whole program, and group coaching, group mentoring, funding. We have some funding opportunities. We have everything in this 1-year program with our actual coaches who are experts in their field of either marketing, operations, sales, and clinical services. And so if that is you, just send me a DM or private message me, and or you can actually go to the website. You can go to www. I don't think people say that anymore. Do they even say that anymore? I'm sorry. But they can go compassrosexl.com. That's what it is. It's compassrosexl.com. And you can go right to the website. You can look around, poke around. You can answer the questionnaire there. I will receive it in my email. And then we can set up a time to actually talk to make sure that our program is a great fit for you. If you're in the beginning stages and you haven't had your location yet, I was going to say, and you're not licensed, it typically isn't for you, but some people want to get a jump ahead. I have had a couple of people ask me about that, and that is quite okay. We can do that as well. So again, thank you for joining me. It is compassrosexl.com. If you feel like you need more training, more mentorship in those 4 core competencies in order for you to have a successful senior living community. Thanks again. Thanks for joining. Bye.